Imagine yourself sitting in a luxurious train car, the rhythmic sound of iron wheels on the rails lulling you on your journey. The steam from the locomotive mingles with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, while uniformed waiters walk between polished wooden tables and crystal chandeliers. This is the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when American railroads were not just a means of transportation, but a true symbol of modernity, progress, and luxury. Traveling by train wasn't just about reaching a destination. It was an experience that combined adventure, comfort, and, above all, good food. Today we'll embark on a nostalgic journey to discover 20 dishes served on legendary American railroads, dishes that transformed simple journeys into unforgettable feasts. Railroads emerged as a watershed moment in the United States. They not only connected East and West, but also forever changed the way Americans ate, traveled, and interacted. Dining cars, introduced around the 1860s, were a revolution. Before then, passengers had to make do with quick, often improvised meals during stops at small stations. But companies soon realized that offering quality food could attract customers and reinforce status. Thus, companies like Pullman and Atchison, Topeka and Santa Fe created cars equipped as veritable mobile restaurants, with compact kitchens and sophisticated menus. First-class passengers enjoyed dining experiences comparable to those in the finest hotels of the time. Meanwhile, railway workers and lower-income travelers faced a different reality. Simple, nutritious, and inexpensive meals, eaten in packed lunches or purchased at stations. This duality of railway food is a fundamental part of the history we will explore. The first dish worth highlighting is the top-quality steak. The dining car's main attraction was select cuts of beef, prepared fresh in tiny kitchens. Cuts like porterhouse and ribeye were grilled and served on fine china, accompanied by cooked vegetables and mashed potatoes. Eating a succulent steak as the train crossed the prairies was an experience that symbolized luxury and modernity. Few could afford it, but those who could remembered it as one of the greatest gastronomic experiences of their lives. And if the steaks were impressive, the presence of lobster on board was even more surprising. The famous lobster Newburg, a sophisticated dish originating from New York, consisted of lobster mixed with eggs, cream, and brandy. It was served at special dinners and represented the height of sophistication in the dining cars. Imagine the sensation of crossing the American desert while savoring a recipe worthy of the country's most luxurious salons. This was the magic of the railroads, transforming the arid landscape into a backdrop for an experience worthy of high society. Soups also played a fundamental role. Clear consommes and refined soups were served as elegant starters. Besides being tasty, they were practical for the train's compact kitchens. Accompanied by buttered toast, they began a meal that followed the standards of European haute cuisine, something that companies were keen to replicate to reinforce their image of refinement. Another classic of the luxury carriages was roast turkey with gravy. Inspired by grand festive dinners, the dish was adapted for the railway environment and often served on special occasions. The turkey was accompanied by mashed potatoes, vegetables, and a thick gravy, transforming dinner on board into a memorable occasion. This dish not only satisfied hunger, but also provided a sense of celebration during the journey. For refreshment and lightness, there was egg salad with homemade mayonnaise. While simple to today's eyes, at the time it was considered a refined delicacy. Prepared with fresh eggs and homemade mayonnaise, it was served as a starter or side dish, demonstrating that even on the move it was possible to maintain the standard of sophistication expected by elite passengers. When it comes to desserts, two icons stand out: apple pie and pecan pie. These American classics were almost a staple on railroad menus. They were often prepared at the stations and shipped fresh for onboard service. The sweet, familiar flavor of the pies helped create a cozy atmosphere amidst the long journey. For many passengers, eating a slice of pie while gazing out the window was the definition of comfort. And nothing symbolized railroad hospitality quite like fresh coffee. Brewed in large quantities and kept hot, coffee was consumed by everyone, from first class to workers. It represented energy, warmth, and continuity. For many travelers, breakfast served on the train was the best way to start the day. But if the luxury carriages were a world apart, the meals of workers and ordinary travelers had a very different flavor. Beans and bacon were the staple of the laborers who built and maintained the lines. Inexpensive, nutritious, and easy to prepare in large quantities, the dish provided energy for exhausting journeys. The aroma of beans cooking in iron pots was an inseparable part of everyday railroad life. Another staple was cornbread. Popular in the South and West, it was inexpensive and convenient to make, using ingredients readily available almost anywhere. Served as a side dish or main course, it sustained workers and travelers who didn't have access to dining cars. Beef and vegetable stews were another classic. Cooked in large pots, they mixed inexpensive cuts of meat with potatoes, carrots, and onions. The result was a warm, nutritious meal, perfect for feeding entire groups of workers who spent long periods away from home. For breakfast, scrambled eggs and potatoes were a popular choice among economy-class travelers. Quick to prepare and quite filling, they became a common presence during quick station stops or for simple meals on board. Smoked ham sandwiches were also popular. Sold by vendors on the platforms, they were the perfect solution for those who didn't have the time or money for more elaborate meals. Often wrapped in wax paper, sandwiches were the ideal portable meal. Pancakes with molasses or syrup were part of more affordable breakfasts. They were easy to prepare and provided a sweet comfort during long journeys. Many families traveling in economy class remembered pancakes as one of the most enjoyable moments of the journey. Simple sweets, such as homemade cookies and cakes, were sold by local women at the stations. These treats not only provided nourishment, but also created a sense of community, reflecting the flavors of the regions they traversed. The cultural diversity of the United States was also reflected on the railroads. Mexican tamales, for example, were sold at stations in the Southwest. Wrapped in corn husks and stuffed with seasoned meat, they became part of the railroad experience, especially for those traveling west. On Northwest routes, smoked salmon was a regional delicacy. Served with brown bread and butter, it reflected the region's abundance of natural resources and gave travelers an authentic taste of the place they passed through. Texas chili, with its spicy and distinctive flavor, also found its way onto the railroads. Served in both rustic versions for workers and adapted versions for luxury passengers, it became a symbol of southwestern cuisine. Blackberry pies were another example of local contributions. Rural residents sold these fresh desserts at stops, offering passengers a seasonal and authentic taste of the region. Homemade pickles used to preserve vegetables were essential on long journeys. Besides keeping for a long time, they added intense flavor to simple meals, making them indispensable for both passengers and workers. And finally, each railroad route had its own beverages. From local craft beers to experimental sodas from the early 20th century, the options varied by region. These beverages not only quenched thirst, but also represented the cultural identity of each part of the country. These 20 foods tell a fascinating story about America in motion. They reveal the duality of a country in transformation. On one side, the luxury and sophistication of the elites, on the other, the simplicity and struggle of the workers. Together, they show how railroads were more than just steel rails. They were bridges between cultures, flavors, and experiences. Eating aboard a train was both an act of survival and a status symbol. And each dish served on the tracks holds within it a piece of American history. If you enjoyed this nostalgic journey, please like and subscribe to the channel. Here, each week, we'll uncover the forgotten flavors that helped shape American history. And get ready for the next episode, where we'll explore the food served in 18th century colonial taverns. A new journey through time awaits us, full of aromas, curiosities, and stories worth remembering.